You've gotten this far in your leadership life. Now it's time to level up. You can learn the tools to reimagine, reinvent, and to even love your leadership life. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello. How are you feeling today? I am pretty amped up today. I have a lot going on, but it's all good. I'm up for all of it. I've got this. As I sat down to put together an outline for today's episode, I was thinking about last week's episode, which was about conscious self-care. And I have noticed that every time I teach or write about or record a podcast episode about a topic, it serves to re-energize my own personal growth. And so I have been amping up my own self-care this past week since that was the topic that I covered. And I have to tell you, it feels good to live what I talk about and what I teach. It does make such a difference. Another insight I had as I reflected on conscious self-care was that the more I do my own personal work on my own growth, the more consistent I am with my own work, the more I create momentum around my mission to help others to live into their resiliency, to shift out of being in survival mode and into a more flourishing leadership and life to get the results they desire. If you Google leadership influence, what will come up is the ability a person has to change. And I am inserting and assuming somebody else's values. In other words, the ability to change somebody else's values, beliefs, or attitudes about a topic. That is what Google says leadership influence is. And when you think about it, it's also about offering a new perspective that maybe others are not seeing in the moment. That's kind of where I feel that I am more aligned with what that means with leadership influence. It's more about offering different perspectives. Okay, but that means that you have to be able to see that new perspective first, which brings me full circle back to the conscious self-care topic. The practice of tending to your own thought and emotional management is part of tending to your own holistic well-being. And I say practice because it's not a one and done thing or something to do after a mental, emotional, or physical health crisis. As I said in the last episode, the purpose of making it a practice is to be prepared to influence and lead others anytime, but especially when faced with a challenge or a crisis. So that's what this topic or this episode is about. Practicing your own emotional management, leading from your own higher state, and doing it so that you can influence others, help them to see different perspectives in order to help them also to do the same, to lead and influence others, to be able to see different perspectives and, create this ripple effect that I'm always talking about, a ripple effect of wellness, a ripple effect of positive leadership, conscious self-leadership, all of those things that come up time and again in this podcast. And so I was thinking about that. And one of the big moments I had in my leadership when I was in your shoes was during 9/11. I remember when 9/11 happened, I was in a principal's meeting not far from my school, and our area superintendent entered the meeting site with a TV, maybe two, I'm not sure how many. Right now, what I remember is that there was a TV on a cart. You've seen those in the schools. And we didn't know yet. We hadn't really, it was before all of us had a smartphone in our hands, and we were so in touch with the news as it happened. Back then, we didn't know. We all showed up for the meeting. We were sitting around just kind of chatting, waiting for it to start. And it wasn't until the TVs were turned on and our superintendent told us what was happening in New York that we actually understood how much this was going to impact our entire community. And I still remember him saying, parents are going to be upset. Your staff is going to want to know what is happening. And he gave us, I guess you can call it a leadership pep talk. People will be watching you to take their cues, be visible, and so on. Then he sent us back to our campuses and he told us, you're going to go keep the calm, make sure everybody gets home all right, secure your campus, all of these things that we needed to take care of. And I tell you what, that was a lot for a young leader to take on. But he was right. The leader sets the tone and tenor for the organization's culture and for the way we respond to events like 9/11, which hopefully we won't ever have such a monumental crisis moment. But when you think about what it's going to take for you to handle anything that could come up, such as a crisis or something that you didn't even expect, like 9/11 was not even anywhere near our thoughts or we couldn't possibly even imagine that something like that could happen, you know? So how do you prepare for that? There was so much uncertainty about it. And really, that's the truth of our current world, is that we are facing challenges and we are facing change and uncertainty and complexity at rapid levels all of the time, even more so now. It seems like it is our today. And it will likely get even more complex as technology continues to roll out at such a rapid pace and improve, and in some ways even create more challenges for us, like the whole AI thing. How do you handle all of that? There are new questions for us as we go. It seems like every day there's something new to consider. And so this is something that has been on my mind. I read recently somewhere that for prior generations, you could just get on the boat of life, let's call it, and ride it all the way through your life. As long as you stayed on that boat, then you could get through your work experience, your career, raising a family, whatever. You just needed to stay on the boat and things would be okay. Whereas for this generation, it's completely different now because of this increasing speed of technology advancements and the increasing uncertainty that we're facing. It is more like going through your life and work and career on a whitewater raft, facing very rough and ever-changing waters. I mean, you're just clinging on, having to navigate at a much faster speed than before and having to navigate through sudden changes and unexpected changes, which is, again, another reason to model and teach facing challenges from a higher state, from your conscious self. Otherwise, that rafting situation can lead to unwanted outcomes, which is also why practicing responding versus reacting is helpful. Without practicing mental and emotional management and conscious self-care, most of us will react, just automatically react, versus being able to respond more consciously. Reacting is that immediate automatic reaction that is driven usually by fear, which we need. We need to be able to react automatically if we are in physical danger. We want to have that cortisol and adrenaline to help us get out of danger. But when your challenge is not life-threatening, then that automatic and immediate reaction maybe won't be as helpful. It may not lead to your desired outcome. Getting a desired outcome, this is you leading from a higher version of yourself, from your vision and values, from a calm state. You maintain control by staying conscious of your own thoughts and emotions. You take action from a longer term perspective. You respond more consciously. Reacting is usually staying in survival mode leadership. It can look like our friends, the 4 F's: fight, freeze, flee, or fawn. Responding is when you can take pause to calm your nervous system so you can access your better executive functioning, so you can focus or prioritize, organize, so you can communicate better, so you can lead better. Okay, so how do you influence others and respond from this higher state? Well, the first thing to note is that highly resilient teams have a strong sense of psychological safety. They have trust and belief that everyone on the team will support each other. They are open with each other and they are able to get things done together. If you have all of that, that is wonderful. But if you're still working toward that, then that means that you do have to work to build that. It is even more important and helpful that you respond way more than you react to a challenge or to a crisis, to change, to uncertainty. When you don't have that psychological safety built in yet, right? Especially if you are triggered. So this is why I call it a practice. It's something that you have to do every day in order to be able to access that calm state so that you can respond more consciously to whatever crisis hits you. What I recommend is giving yourself opportunities to take pause, like literally to catch your breath. Breathe in deeply and slowly if you can, and notice your own emotions. Label what you are feeling. Is it fear, sadness, anger, frustration? Maybe it's disappointment. If I knew to do that back when 9/11 happened, I would have been doing my breathing exercises for sure, because even though I probably appeared calm to others and even to me, I was kind of calm. That's usually my state anyway. I'm more on the calm and quiet side. But what I know now is that my stress in those moments was more than likely parked inside of my body. My anxiety was parked inside of my body. All of the cortisol and adrenaline, they were accumulating all day. And I doubt that even if I tried to relax when I finally got home, it probably didn't go anywhere. I probably sat myself in front of the TV. In fact, I'm sure I did. Or maybe I was on my laptop, but I know I was watching the news. So I didn't really give myself an opportunity to really rest or to self-care. I was just adding fuel to the fire. When you are under high stress and anxiety on the job and you pay attention to what you are feeling and thinking, then you can give your emotions some place to go. You can keep them moving instead of storing them in your body like I did back then. With what I know today, I could have taken on the role of the watcher of my own emotions and noticed what I was feeling. Let's say that primary feeling was anxiety. I could then name it, go into my body and describe it, notice where it was at. It was likely in my throat. I would have likely felt it in my hands. I would have noticed my sweaty palms. I actually still remember that. The idea is to describe how the emotions feel in your body. What happens when you do this is that as you name your emotions, you are observing yourself. You take yourself out of the feelings for a moment to observe yourself feeling the emotions. It gives you some relief from whatever it is you're feeling. And then as you name the emotions, or at least the primary emotion, and you describe it, then that invites you to go back into your body, to be present with your emotion, to do the breathing as you describe it. That helps you to wrap your mind around it, and it helps it to dissipate because you're allowing it. You're not storing it. You're just letting it do its thing, especially when you can connect it to its accompanying thought. What is a thought tied to your anxiety? For me, when I think about it back then, it was probably a thought about the uncertainty of the day. Being able to see your emotion and its accompanying thought is like collecting data. That would have been data for me. It would have helped me to wrap my head around it all and then be more intentional with my response. It is when you keep your anxiety or whatever emotion inside and ignore it that it builds up, which is likely what happened to me back then. It's like that beach ball you try to push down into the water. It's leading from pressure and increasing anxiety as opposed to being curious and open about your anxiety or any emotion and processing the emotions that you are having in order to help calm your own nervous system. And this is a lot easier to do as you practice it. And not only in challenging times, but practice it consistently. It's not that practice makes perfect. In this case, practice keeps you ready. It's like an athlete practicing daily to compete, to show up for the day's game. You have to commit to it. The more you practice your own self-care for your own mental and emotional well-being, the more your team will see these types of practices as acceptable and encouraged. The more difference these practices make for you, the more difference they will make for those around you by extension and over time. Okay, so let's breathe. Breathe in the resiliency. Breathe in the peace. Breathe out the stress. Breathe out the worry. You have got this. Have a beautiful week. We'll see you next time. If you're ready to dive into this work, check out my Living Your Leadership Life membership. It's where you will find the coaching, tools, and community to help you leave survival in the dust and create the leadership life you desire. Go to drjuliabarrow.com and the Work With Me page for more information. And if you know someone else who can benefit from listening to this podcast, send them our link. Our world can use some healing, and it starts with our leaders. Join us.